The rain began just as the first car pulled into the cemetery. Not a storm, not thunder, just a slow, steady drizzle that blurred the gray sky into the same dull shade as the headstones. My son had always hated the rain. "Feels like the world's crying for no reason," he used to say when he was little, standing at the kitchen window with his small hands pressed against the glass. Now the world had a reason. Daniel passed away at 34 years old, a self-made millionaire, owner of a rapidly growing tech firm in downtown Chicago, a man who turned ideas into gold. People called him brilliant, visionary, lucky. They didn't know how hard he worked. I did. I watched him build his first computer on the living room floor, watched him code through college nights fueled by instant noodles and ambition, watched him fall in love. And that was where things started to unravel. Her name was Leela. She was beautiful in the polished magazine cover way, dark hair that fell like silk, eyes always scanning, always calculating. When Daniel introduced her to me, she hugged me tightly and said, "I already feel like family." I wanted to believe her. They married quickly within a year. The wedding was extravagant, paid for entirely by Daniel, crystal chandeliers, imported flowers, a 5-tier cake that looked like it belonged in a royal palace. I remember thinking, she's living a dream. But I didn't realize whose dream it really was. 2 years later, Daniel's company exploded in value. Investors lined up, interviews flooded in. Magazine covers featured his smiling face beneath headlines about the future of innovation. Money poured in faster than he could count it. And somewhere in that flood, something shifted. He stopped visiting as often. His voice grew tired on the phone. Once, when I asked if everything was all right, he hesitated just long enough for my heart to tighten. "It's fine, Mom," he said, "just busy." Busy. The word people use when they don't want to tell you the truth. Then 3 months ago, I got the call. "Car accident. Late night. Highway 90. Instant." The doctor's voice was clinical, practiced. I don't remember hanging up. I don't remember driving to the hospital. I only remember the coldness of his hand when I touched it. My boy. My brilliant, stubborn, rain-hatting boy. Gone. The funeral was arranged quickly. Leela insisted on something befitting his legacy. A grand service in a historic chapel downtown, white roses lining the aisle, a slideshow of his life projected against stained glass windows. His company's executives filled the front rows. Investors, politicians, people who had shaken his hand once and now claimed they knew him deeply. I sat in the second row. Leela sat in the first, dressed in black lace, veil lowered just enough to suggest heartbreak without hiding her flawless makeup. And then he walked in. Tall, confident, too comfortable. His name was Marcus. I'd seen him once before at a company gala. He introduced himself as one of Daniel's strategic partners. His hand lingered on Leela's waist when he thought no one noticed. But I noticed. He sat beside her now. Not behind. Beside. My stomach turned. The service began with soft piano music. Colleagues spoke about Daniel's brilliance, about innovation, about leadership. Not one of them mentioned how he once spent an entire night helping a neighbor fix a broken heater. Not one of them mentioned how he used to donate anonymously to a children's hospital every December. They spoke about the millionaire. Not the son. Then Leela rose. She dabbed at her eyes delicately before approaching the podium. "My husband," she began, voice trembling on cue, "was a man of extraordinary vision. He dreamed big, he lived big." She paused for effect. "And he loved deeply." Her words floated through the chapel like rehearsed lines in a play. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "I'm grateful he trusted me with everything." Everything. A strange murmur rippled through the room. I didn't yet know why. Then Marcus stood. He adjusted his tie and walked confidently toward the podium. My hands gripped the edge of the pew. He wasn't on the program. Leela stepped aside without surprise. "My name is Marcus Reed," he began smoothly. "Daniel and I worked closely together these past 2 years. We built something extraordinary." Built. Not Daniel built. We built. He continued, speaking about expansion plans, future projects, continuing Daniel's vision. It felt less like a eulogy and more like a corporate takeover announcement. And then he said it. With Leela's support, we intend to move forward stronger than ever. Leela's support. A hand slipped into his. Right there. In front of everyone. A collective gasp echoed softly through the chapel. My heart pounded in my ears. And then, laughter. Soft at first. A single chuckle. People turned confused. It wasn't coming from the audience. It was coming from the speakers. The massive sound system Daniel had personally installed in the chapel years ago when he donated money for renovations. Marcus froze mid-sentence. The laughter grew louder. Clearer. Unmistakable. Daniel's voice. I was wondering how long it would take. The entire room went still. Leela's face drained of color. Marcus stepped back from the microphone as if it had burned him. The screen behind them flickered, the slideshow disappeared. A new video began to play. Daniel appeared sitting in his office, calm, composed, alive. If you're seeing this, he said, it means two things. One, I'm gone, and two, Marcus couldn't resist. Gasps erupted. Leela shook her head violently. Turn it off, she whispered. But no one moved. Daniel continued. I built my company on foresight, contingency plans, data, patterns, he smiled faintly, and I noticed a pattern. Photos appeared on screen. Leela and Marcus at a restaurant, at a hotel, in an airport lounge. Date stamped clearly. I didn't confront you, Daniel said gently, because I wanted to see how far you'd go. Marcus's confident posture collapsed. You see, Daniel went on, 3 months ago I rewrote my will. The air left Leela's lungs in an audible gasp. My entire estate, Daniel said, including my shares in the company, has been placed in a charitable trust. Whispers exploded across the chapel. The trust funds educational programs for underprivileged kids, the kind of kids I used to be. The screen shifted to documents, signatures, legal seals. My wife, he added calmly, receives a monthly stipend, enough to live comfortably, but she does not control a single share. Leela stumbled backward as if struck. And Marcus, Daniel said, looking directly into the camera, you're fired. The chapel doors opened suddenly. 2 security officers stepped inside. Daniel's pre-recorded voice concluded. I may be gone, but I'm not foolish. He leaned closer to the camera. Oh, and one more thing. The laughter returned, warm, unmistakable. I always did hate the rain. The video ended. Silence swallowed the room. Then chaos. Reporters rushed outside to make calls, executives whispered urgently, investors stared at Marcus as if seeing him for the first time. Security escorted him toward the exit. Leela collapsed into the front pew, sobbing, though whether from grief or humiliation I couldn't tell. I remained seated. Tears streamed down my face, but they weren't only tears of sorrow. They were pride. My son had known. He had protected his legacy. He had protected himself. As people filtered out of the chapel, I stood slowly and walked toward the casket one last time. I placed my hand gently against the polished wood. You were always the smartest person in the room, I whispered. Outside, the rain began to ease. For the first time that day, light broke faintly through the clouds. Daniel might have been gone. But he had the last laugh.